Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. I do not like it when the government wreck my schedule with sudden news. But as it's to recall Parliament tomorrow to urgently discuss nationalising steel, I will forgive them on this occasion. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So, it's very big news. British Steel, just down the road from me in Scunthorpe, actually, basically a mess. And Trump's 25% steel tariffs have not helped, although that has not been the root cause of this. The government have just announced this afternoon that they will be recalling Parliament tomorrow to discuss nationalising the steelworks, which must mean that the situation is extremely urgent. MPs only just went on Easter recess. Some will be on holiday. Some will be out of the country by now. Also, it's not like the government are recalling Parliament for next Monday, giving MPs the weekend to rearrange things. No, they've effectively given them operationally a few hours notice, and some of them apparently are not happy. So this means something has happened that cannot wait until after the weekend to deal with. So what's going on? Why the urgency? Well, let me explain the situation at the steelworks in Scunthorpe. So it's got two operational blast furnaces, which the owners were planning on shutting down as part of the transition to electric arc furnaces. However, multiple problems with this. The first is that it would mean a huge gap between the blast furnaces closing and the electric arc furnaces being ready. The job losses would be devastating to Scunthorpe. It's completely reliant on the direct and indirect jobs linked to the steelworks. Although jobs would further diminish anyway as you move from blast furnaces to electric arc furnaces, they don't need as many workers, this would be too much too suddenly. Second problem is that even with the electric arc furnaces, you can't make the sort of steel we need in the UK. There are some grades of steel which you just cannot make by recycling scrap, which is what arc furnaces do. So electric arc furnaces, they're really good for what they can do, but reliance on them at a national level would leave us very vulnerable. We would need to import high-grade steel from overseas. Really not a good idea to be dependent on something you need for national security purposes on countries you might have little arguments with in the future. And given that, if you look at the last few years alone, the previous government wanted to pick a fight with Europe, and America has decided to randomly pick a fight with everyone, including us. So you can see how we really can't depend upon trade anywhere in the long term. We must be able to produce our own virgin steel. You know, this is steel produced from iron ore, coke, limestone, and whatever needs adding for the specific properties you need. One of the appeals of moving to electric arc furnaces, as well as higher efficiency for certain types of steel, is the blast furnaces belch out a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. They have to be open, not really a lot to be done about that. And yes, we need to reach net zero on carbon, but I've said before, the national interest really dictates that we take at least one blast furnace as a hit, and I think probably two. Make up the difference elsewhere. Steel is too important to national security. Every advanced economy produces its own steel. We have to too. I mean, apart from anything else, like if you're just going to buy the steel from somewhere else, the carbon is still produced. Like in terms of tackling climate change, shifting that carbon emission from Britain to India or wherever, that doesn't make a difference. So if we're going to use the steel, we should produce it ourselves because we're not sacrificing the environment. The carbon is going to be released anyway if we need the steel. So what can we infer from this sudden and urgent recall of Parliament? Well, the urgency can only be related to the blast furnaces. The owners were, I think, planning on shutting them down really very quick. I think one of them maybe within days. And once you shut them down, that's it. You don't start them back up again. They have to be kept going because when they go cold, that's it. It's finished. So why couldn't this wait until Monday? Well, it must be that the government think they need to take action without losing a single day. The talks to persuade the owners to keep the blast furnaces going has failed. The government must have decided they cannot allow them to go cold. I can think there's no other reason, really. There is no other explanation. Which also suggests that the government intend to keep the blast furnaces going in public hands if the private owners will not do it. So it's obvious that the government feel the need to take British Steel into public hands. There'll be no prizes for being correct on that score. The question is how. So as with all nationalisations, we'd rather not have to spend too much money, especially as we don't really have money right now. I saw a suggestion in The Guardian, this recall has not gone down well with MPs because the government knew the steelworks was threatened for weeks and this is the sort of thing that could have been done before. And it's like, okay, but what those MPs may be failing to appreciate is that taking this action is clearly going to come with financial trade-offs. This is why the government wanted to get agreement with the owners. We'd even offered to buy the raw materials for the steelworks in order to keep talking, because we'd have to do that anyway in public hands. But the owners didn't seem to have liked the conditions. So we're now looking at least one blast furnace closing down next week and the government having to act. Ideally, the way to nationalise something like this is you just let the private running become insolvent. This is sort of what I'm hoping is the plan for water companies. Let them go to the wall, then pick it up for next to nothing. But this sounds like it will have to be a forced acquisition, which will cost. I gather it could cost like about £1 billion, which is a good job. The economy grew more than expected in February, although that might be the least of the last of the good news, I should say, under the shadow of Trump's handiwork. So basically, the last resort has now been reached. Grumbling MPs will file into Westminster tomorrow to discuss the options, which are likely to boil down to nationalisation, but I suspect not the cheap way to do it. After all, given that the government did indeed know that this was a potential outcome, holding off until the last moment suggests they did not like the price tag which comes with it. But at least it's good that they recognise the need to not only protect those jobs, that's absolutely vital, but protect our need to produce our own steel. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.